meningitis. Due to the hemorrhage and the bleeds in the brain, I had muscle wastage in my legs. So I was also new to being a wheelchair user. I was newly disabled, which in itself is a battle. I'm 6'4". I'm probably about 54, 55-inch chest. Used to be a bodybuilder, got big arms, muscles. I'm a big guy, but I'm only 3'2" in a wheelchair. Body image, looking at myself in the mirror in a wheelchair. You know, all these things I had to get used to, never mind dying. But you know something, I said, I want to go outside. And all my family, friends would say, no, don't do it. I said, no, I want to. So I borrowed a wheelchair, and the first thing was I wheeled myself up to the main road. And across the main road was a shop and a park. And I wanted to do both. I wanted to buy something, I didn't care what it was, just to feel normal again. And I wanted to go to the park. And it was a very, very busy main road. And, you know, I waited for the traffic signals, you know, to go red and so I could cross. And as I sat there, someone drove past, a couple of guys in the car started calling me names. Now, the documentary was filmed with going on the BBC and primary school scene there, so I didn't really go into too much detail as to what was said. But I can tell you that, you know, being called a cripple was nothing in comparison to the other things that they called me. Effing retard, you know, effing cripple, spastic, you know, all these things, you know, for no reason whatsoever, apart from I was in the wheelchair. That was it. There was I didn't even know who they were. They didn't know me, but you know something, they thought it was hilarious to have this and to say these things at my expense. They had a really good laugh about it. But what I can tell you right now is after they drove past, they probably would have forgotten about that for the rest of their lives. They had a good laugh at my expense for 5 minutes, and then they would have forgotten about it. But for myself, I actually am not afraid to say at 34 years of age, I bawled my eyes out right there and then in the middle of the street. I was devastated, I was mortified. You know, I was also still so ill and very poorly. And I just couldn't believe it that someone would say these things to me. So I turned around, I went home, and I stayed inside and I isolated myself for 4 whole months. I wouldn't go outside. I was petrified to go outside because I was afraid that other people would start bullying me, start calling me names for no reason. And part of the campaign I'm doing is to say to you all regarding stigma, bullying and hate crime is think about what you say before you say it. It's a big part of my campaign. I'm actually the official ambassador for hate crime now, stigma and bullying in the UK. So I tour many places and speak to, you know, students and speak to universities and even speak to primary schools about this. Because it's really important. You know, after becoming an ambassador for hate crime, I receive probably about 200 letters a month from pupils and schools, from universities, from adults saying, I'm targeted, I'm being bullied, you know, it's you know, because of whatever reason. And what I want to talk to you about is what happens is with a bullying incident or a hate crime incident, it could get to the point where you isolate yourself, you give up everything that you love, you don't speak to anyone, then you start getting anxious, start getting depressed. And it comes into self-harming or hurting yourself in one way, shape or form. You know, because she said, Adrian, listen, you know, my daughter was targeted in a big bullying campaign. You know, it wasn't just physical or verbal, it was social media. And Caitlin had, I think, about 200 wall posts by 20 different people, but they were all in a group. And they bullied her relentless through high school, through college, sixth form, college, community college, the whole lot, and she was 19. And Caitlin was a phenomenal runner. She's a very pretty girl, really lovely person in general. Great A student. And her actual A's went to B's, went to C's, went to D's, and she just couldn't handle it anymore. You know, and her mother really didn't know much what was going on. She knew that, you know, sport wasn't, you know, her passion anymore, that she stayed inside, she isolated herself, she was always in the bedroom. But what her mum didn't realise was Caitlin was part of this big bullying campaign, where in her own bedroom she was getting bullied, she could be on holiday, she was getting bullied because of obviously Facebook and social media and Twitter and whatever else, Instagram pictures. of all sorts of things. It was horrendous, terrible. And Caitlin had a lisp, and you know, and that was it really. She was a lovely girl. That was it. She was just picked on and bullied relentlessly. And then one morning, you know, her mum made breakfast, shouted Caitlin, you know, to come downstairs. She was running a bit late, and there was no answer. So she went upstairs and knocked on the door and said, Caitlin, listen, you're running a bit late for college. You need to get up. And there was no answer. So she opened the door. And what she found was her daughter hung herself as she was swinging from the rafters. Blue. That's Caitlin right there. Whole life ahead of her. But because of bullying and social media bullying, and you know, and groups just getting together and just completely, you know, ripping her apart, because she was quiet. She had a bit of a speech impediment, but she was just quiet. She was just a lovely girl who concentrated on work, and she was bullied relentlessly for it.